Speak English?
Todd Cleese is one of 30 so-called senior lead officers in charge of community-based policing in South Central Los Angeles, a program aimed at breaking down barriers of communication between residents and police.
Hola. Yo hablo muy poquito español.
But how do you break down barriers of communication when the primary barrier is communication? On this day, Cleese needed help in simply relaying a message about loud music in the neighborhood.
Con la música muy alta.
De los vecinos.
De los vecinos.
Almost half of the population of South Central LA is Spanish-speaking, mostly immigrants from Mexico. But only 5% of the officers who patrol here are fluent. South Bureau Police Chief Mark Croker decided the only way his officers can serve the community is to speak the language of the community.
It'll be the kind of language that is the daily life language, rather than, may I see your driver's license, please step out of the car.
We have the first lesson.
So, starting in July of '94, Croker and his lead officers began taking Spanish lessons.
Yo soy estudiante policía.
This initial pilot program was to conclude with a trip to Mexico, where the officers would stay with Mexican families and immerse themselves in a foreign culture. It sounded like a good idea, but this is Southern California, where anti-immigrant sentiment is running high. News of the program triggered angry letters to the department, including one which read, "Our police officers should be on the streets doing their job, which is to fight crime, not learning Spanish so they can speak to illegal aliens who already are breaking the law." And Croker admits he even faced some opposition from within the ranks.
In other words, there's some police officers who don't think it's that good of an idea. To them, I have said, let's test this out. Trust me, let's just get this pilot in there, see how it works out, and you're going to find that it's worth the going.
But it took a while to get there. With no money in the police budget for a new and controversial program, Croker went to corporate donors. It took him a year and a half to raise the $20,000 for the trip to Mexico. After finally landing in Guadalajara, the officers went to the homes of their host families, where they would live for the next 10 days.
Oh, todo mundo. Okay.
Suddenly, vocabulary lessons were no longer academic.
En español.
Cortina?
Cortina.
Cortina.
Okay.
They wasted no time getting to know the families.
Esta es mi familia. Toda.
In no time at all, in fact, they were like one of the family. The LA police chose Guadalajara for a reason. About 70% of all Mexican immigrants living in South Central LA come from this region. The police came here to learn more than the language. They wanted to know about the specific culture of this area. And so they visited historical spots, like the colonial town of Guanajuato. Wherever they went, from the marketplace to art galleries to historic haciendas, they were forced to use Spanish. Eventually, it seemed more delight than drudgery. The officers were required to spend several hours each day learning Spanish at the University of Guadalajara.
Es hora de descansar.
But for many of them, the biggest lesson they learned was empathy.
I definitely know that I will be more empathetic when I speak to someone who only speaks Spanish, because now I know what it feels like to try and communicate and not know what someone's saying.
Even better, there is the empathy that comes from knowing exactly what someone is saying. Better still, saying it yourself.
Muchas gracias por comida.
For the American Agenda, I'm Judy Muller in Guadalajara.